Today, Travis and I are down in the Texas heat checking out the 2025 Chevy Suburban. Now for Chevy, the Suburban is the crown jewel, the vehicle that the families really want. It's packed full of technology, space for your family and cargo, as well as just being an attractive vehicle on the road. It has a nice presence to it, giving you that luxury feel that everyone really wants. And for 2025, we have a refreshed exterior, more tech packed on the inside, and different engine options for different trims. Now Travis is behind the camera. What do you think of this new exterior design?
Well, it really starts up here with the front end, and we've done a really good job of just massaging a design that was already attractive to begin with. My favorite part of the front end here has got to be those headlights. It's not totally different, but what they've done is they've split those headlights up a little bit, and we now have a much more defined top LED bar, and that really stands out, especially on this high country trim where everything here is meant to be a little bit more premium.
Yeah, like you were saying, so we have the DRL up top, DRL surrounding the headlights themselves, so that is different. Those headlights move down below. You actually have active air skirts on the side, and for the high country in the Z71, you will get different grille inserts than you're gonna find on the lower trim. So here on the high country, you obviously get the chrome treatment here in between your gloss black, nice big old gold bow tie in the middle, and then down below on the lower bumper, you have your radar for radar cruise control, parking sensors, as well as LED fog lights moved inboard just a tad bit inside that lower grille. Now, this one does have the 3-liter Duramax, so that is not blocked off. In other trims, you will find plastic blocking off those lower grille inserts, but on our vehicle that we have here with that 3-liter diesel, that is active passing air through because diesels run hot.
There is quite a variety when it comes to packaging. Now, as we mentioned, this one is the high country, this is the top end, and it has a lot of features and a lot of things that come standard with it, as you would assume, but there are still some things missing. This one, for example, has the 24-inch wheels, but what it doesn't have is the Super Cruise, which is available on most of these trims, but not standard on any of them. How do you feel about not getting Super Cruise when you're paying top dollar for the car?
It is a lot of money to not have all of the tech packed into the highest trim you can find, but you do have the option of getting it. And if you're not someone that likes autonomous driving, then maybe it's not for you. That's why they give you that option. Now, as you was mentioning, we get the 24-inch wheels here on the high country, or if you go for the 24-inch wheels, it comes standard with air ride suspension. Now, fun fact is that air ride suspension isn't just air ride, it even adds Magna Ride. So you have both air ride and Magna Ride here with the 24-inch wheels. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is with the headlights and the taillights are redesigned too, we'll get to those. But when you walk up to the high country and you have the key in your pocket, you have animated lights to welcome you into your beautiful vehicle, this large behemoth of a vehicle. Now down the side hasn't changed all that much. This C-pillar is nice and fat with that chrome swoop going from the C-pillar all the way down the window lining to that A-pillar. But luckily that silver or that chrome does not go up here. It is just a gloss black, and I do like that because it doesn't block off the windows. It just kind of makes it look a little bit more sleek and a little bit more put together.
Nick, they say everything is bigger in Texas, and we obviously have the king of the crop here for Chevrolet. But as we mentioned, we have 24-inch wheels available. There are 2 different wheels depending on which trim you get, and it almost seems like that wheel might not be big enough. I mean, there's so much space here. How do you feel about a 24-inch wheel?
You know, usually I would say 24 might be pushing the boundaries of what I would prefer personally, but you look at these wheel wells and the size of this vehicle and it really fills out that wheel well nicely with the 24-inch and these all-season tires that we have equipped. And one thing I want to point out is that the lug nuts is covered up by a plastic bit with that Chevy bow tie in the middle. It kind of gives it that luxury feel with that machine face, gives it that luxury feel almost similar to like what you find on a Rolls-Royce, although that logo does not stay centered. It doesn't spin. That would be a really cool feature if Chevy.
Well, that'd be an extra cost. And one thing is worth mentioning, we talked about it earlier, not only is this one of the heaviest models, I believe we have the 4-wheel drive, we have the diesel engine, and we have the 24-inch wheels. This thing rides really, really nicely on that air ride suspension.
Yeah, definitely. The air ride and the Magna Ride definitely improve the driving characteristics. And we'll get to that too. We'll be driving this vehicle here very shortly, so please hold on. We'll get to that. But let's move around the back. It's gonna be a little bit darker as we're in the shadows, but we have redesigned taillights. So they kind of flipped them around to where the skinnier part of the taillight is on the inside and it gets fatter on the outside and runs the length of the taillight housing, giving it that wide width that you were looking for in your vehicle. Now on 2025, we also get this black bar that goes around the lift gate, where we have Suburban put up top with that Chevy bow tie and 2 separate cameras for your 360 surround view vision and your backup camera. Now, as you can see over here, on the driver's side down below, Duramax, that is what you're paying the big dollars for right there, that Duramax little emblem.
The easiest way to tell that you have a High Country, 24-inch wheels are going to be a giveaway, but we have at least three different exhaust variants. The High Country is the only one that gets those squared off exhausts, and honestly, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely gives it a unique look to what other vehicle or to what other trims there are for the Suburban or even the revised Tahoe that we'll also be getting to all down here. But it's a very beautiful exterior. I love the design they went with for 2025. It gives it a unique look to other vehicles that are on the road currently. And that's what you really want if you're gonna be spending all this big money for the High Country. And again, we do not have pricing yet, but I would assume it's gonna be top dollar.
Those lights definitely make it seem a little bit taller, almost a little bit thinner. It's not quite what they do with Cadillac, but we're getting close.
They're almost hazy to where on the higher trims, it's kind of a hazy whitish. You kind of see the red, but it won't be as red as the lower trims are. And you also kind of have these little stripe of lights going down. If we turn the lights on, you'd be able to see that. We'll do that here in just a second and give you a demonstration of the blinker and all of that. But I like the LED treatment they gave this vehicle, whether it's the redesigned taillights or the redesigned headlights up front.
Now, as far as we're concerned, Chevy's done a really good job of carrying over the things that worked and then improving some of the things that could use improvement. That really starts here in the engine bay. What we have is the updated, not new and improved, but updated 3-liter diesel. What we also get is the 5.3 standard in most of the trims. This High Country is going to come standard with the 6.2 V8, but this is really the cream of the crop when it comes to those engine choices.
Yeah, for sure. This is the second generation of the 3-liter diesel that Chevy brought to the Silverado. Now it's coming here into the 2025 and it gets a 10% horsepower increase over the first generation thanks to some doodads they did under the hood. Travis, you got the details of that new turbo, is that right?
Yeah, so the engine itself is pretty much a carryover, but a lot of the complementary pieces have been tweaked and revised, and that's really why we're getting the change we have. And it's quite a bit of change for not a whole lot of different parts.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, 10% increase in horsepower. So we have 305 horsepower and 495 pound-feet of torque. Now, to the engine that is available here for the High Country, you have the 6.2 or this 3-liter. This will give you the most torque, not the most horsepower, but it will give you the most torque, as well as most likely, we don't have official EPA numbers, but this will most likely give you the best efficiency as well. And this is paired to a 10-speed automatic transmission, and it is buttery smooth when you get it out on the road, and it really moves this behemoth of a vehicle down the road with ease. Now, for ease of use and consistency, we're just gonna go the old-fashioned route and open it with the little push button here. Push that and open up the rear cargo area. But here on the 2025, it has a pretty nifty feature to where if you lock the vehicle, walk away, and when you come back and you have your hands full, whatever it may be that is in your hands and you can't put everything down and press that button, the vehicle will recognize the key in your pocket and open up that lift gate for you automatically. Now, again, ease of use and consistency, we did not do that right this second, but if you look inside here, this is where the Suburban starts to shine. Not only do we have a big third row, we also have a ton of cargo space back here.
Yeah, we got a lot of junk that we just threw back here, and there's tons of room available. And there's easy ways to make more room. So not only is this model have the power folding third row, but even though I'm accessing it here from the back, you can also access it from the front seat.
Now in the High Country trim, you do have captain seats in the second row. You do not have the option for a bench, but you can also fold the second row down to get maximum capacity here in the Suburban by pressing the button off to the passenger side, and those will fold down completely flat. I mean, look how much room that is. Let me take these bags out of here so you can really start to see what we're working with. Look how flat that is. It's wide. You got flat storage all the way up to the driver and passenger seat.
This is a 7-seater. The more standard, or what you'll find more often, I think is going to be the 8-seater, but you can get a 9-seat option here. Nick, are you on board with the 9-seat option? We should see a whole lot more of it.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting configuration. It's going to be on the lower trims, but you can get an 9-seat configuration. It will not have a center console, so we have some nifty gadgets up there that we'll talk about. You will not get the center console. You'll have a bench up front, so you can get maximum cargo or maximum people inside of your vehicle, but that is going to be more of a fleet type use to get all of that storage. And that's available in the Tahoe and the Suburban here like we have.
It's only going to be that LS trim level, so if you do want that option, you're going to be foregoing a lot of others, but it's just nice that we have that option. I would probably take my Tahoe or Suburban bench on bench on bench.
Really? That is very interesting. And I like that they give us that option because it is something unique that the vehicle market doesn't seem to have anymore. And also a bench in the front row, that is so unique just in general, and let alone here in 2025.
If we haven't said it already, this is a big car, but it's also an expensive car with lots of features, including the power retractable step. Now, we aren't going to be the ones who need to do this, but this car is going to be a lot bigger than some of the drivers, and the fact that we can get in there nice and easy is a definite bonus. But once you're inside, how is it, Nick?
It's very comfortable, and it's nice to have the ease of access with that power step, and that is standard on the High Country, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yep, so standard, which is a nice feature. I personally don't need it at 6'1". My long legs can get me in and out, but if you're in the 5-foot range, I mean, it's definitely gonna be a useful feature. Now, in terms of seat comfort, we have a lot of adjustability, both on the driver and passenger side, lumbar support up, down, forward, and back, and just a lot of comfort. I mean, we have cooled seats, heated seats, both driver and passenger side, a lot of amenities here in the High Country. Obviously, this is the top trim, so this is gonna be fully loaded. But Travis, if you wanna hop in the back seat, let's talk about the prized possession here on the dashboard.
Yeah, let's take a closer look.
So the biggest change for the interior is going to be this absolutely ginormous 17.7-inch infotainment display. Now, if you see, the bezel itself connects to the driver information display. It's a nice LCD up front, and it extends all the way over 17.7 inches on Apple CarPlay. The screen itself actually extends almost like the contour of the bezel itself, which is a very nice, high luxury feel. And the display almost kind of dips down into the dashboard. Now, that is one thing we want to talk about, is the dashboard is a lot lower, but first, let's look at this wood trim. This is more wood trim that you can get in any Lexus.
That's definitely true, and it is real wood. So the fact that we get that premium touch here, again, we are paying a premium price tag for this High Country, but you do get the feel, especially when paired with this brown leather interior.
For sure, this nice light brown with the contrast stitching and this light brown wood grain with, this is probably my favorite part, this nice silver trim that flows along this wood trim. It just really accentuates how high quality and how luxury the High Country really is. Now, there is a lot of gloss black. Down below that 17.7-inch display, you have two air vents, one for the driver, one for the passenger. HVAC controls in the screen, but also retaining manual or physical HVAC controls if you are more of that route. Again, gloss black, so that can get scratched up, and there's even more down below. But first, let's talk about what we have here for charging. So we have a Qi wireless charger there, we have a USB-A, a USB-C, and just a tad bit more storage to put your wallet and things of that nature. Two cup holders that have a connection in the middle, and a lot of gloss black surrounding the cup holders and said charging ports. Nice contour, nice accentuation of that silver and that brown leather interior. And this is the trickiest part. So up top here, where you control your dual pane panoramic moonroof, you can actually slide back the center console. But take Travis's knee out, let him move the camera. And if you want to move those cup holders further back towards your second row passengers, you can do that, and that reveals even more storage down below. Travis, I don't know if you can manipulate that camera.
We'll do our best here.
But there is more storage down below where you can put a small purse, you can put things that you don't want showing up top, but you even have a secret drawer. So when you have this slid back for the second row passengers that utilize those cup holders, you even have a hidden drawer down below. You can put things in there, close that, and slide it back, and that will be protected.
And if you want that armrest right where you left it, you can go ahead and slide it back forward, so there really shouldn't be a position that doesn't work for you or your rear passengers or all the items in here, which makes sense. You don't buy the biggest Chevy in the market to not get all the storage capacity that you need.
Yeah, and I really like what they did with that power center console. Just gives some adjustability in a large vehicle. I mean, if the cup holders and the door panels are not enough for the passengers, two more right here, slide that back, get even closer to them. In terms of what you're gonna be resting your arm on while driving or riding passenger, this nice perforated leather with the contrast stitching, very nice quality, heavy duty stitching, and lots of storage inside. Travis, if you want to hand me that camera, I will show inside. If you take a peek inside the center console, we have some things in here. These are going to be the headphones for the second row TV screens, or the screens that we'll talk about here in just a second, but a lot of storage here in the center console. Even with the extra storage we have down below when we slide it back, you have even more inside the center console. If we move these things out, there are no charging ports inside here. It is fairly basic, but there is a lot of storage to be had. Let's go ahead and talk about these beautiful screens that we have here in the second row for your passengers to be entertained at all times.
Yeah, we've got a lot of screen real estate, not just the front, but here in the rear. And for those rear passengers, there are quite a few amenities. So we can get heated outboard seats. We also have all of the controls we need to stay comfortable back here. You have the heated seat controls, multiple USB chargers, HDMI, and a regular outlet. So just about everything you would need is going to be found here. And if you happen to have some shorter passengers, you can go ahead and slide these seats forward, slide this back, and it just becomes basically a secondary table for them.
There's a lot of adjustability. I think that's a worthwhile thing to point out, especially for the price point. You're gonna be spending all your money on the top trim. You're gonna want all the amenities and all of the gizmos and gadgets, and you're gonna get that here in the high country, except for the fact Super Cruise is going to be optional.
One thing we definitely have is going to be this enormous moonroof, and the fact is it's going to cover most of the headroom of that second row passenger. The third row, however, tends to be the one who's forgotten, and if I'm all the way back here, you can see that there's not no room, but I don't get quite the same treatment. Nick, now that we got you here in the second row, how's it feel back there?
It's not too bad. I like the comfort, but the headroom is just a little lackluster. I do find that my hair, now granted I do have some big hair right now, I'm growing it out, it's in the process, but it is rubbing on the headliner. Now that might be due to the fact that we do have this massive panoramic moonroof that extends all the way to that second row, taking away a little bit of that headroom. But yeah, I'm just scraping just a little bit, and if I go off to the side, you're definitely gonna be hitting that headliner. But you can recline. So you can recline that seat pretty far back. You have adjustable armrests, or sorry, not adjustable armrests, but armrests you can fold up, get that out of your way, or fold that down and get nice and comfortable and watch your TV.
Now that Nick's comfortable, unfortunately he drew the short straw, so it's time for him to go ahead and climb all the way in the back. Can you show us how it's done?
That was the story of my life. Growing up, we had a 3-row Suburban, a 96, and I always had to climb over the seat because folding it down was too hard.
Well, good news.
But here in 2025,
yep,
it gets a lot easier. So let me get this actually unreclined so it makes it easier on us. If you need to get in the back seat, you can not only climb through the captain's chairs, you can also fold the seat forward with the lever on the side, fold it forward, and it does drop down a little bit. You can crawl over, get your dirty feet all in the back here and irritate your parents, or you can pull this lever in the back corner, pull that, pull up, and that folds forward to that front passenger seat. Now, one thing I want to say is these seats are not capable of keeping a car seat in the seat while you slide it forward to access that third row. That is not able to be had here in the high country. But if I go ahead, hop in this third row. Now that is slid all the way forward, but here in the third row, there's actually more headroom back here than there is in the second row. That is astonishing. You do have vents up top for that third row to keep you nice and cool. LED lights up top to illuminate this third row. Cup holders on each side, little cubby storage, USB-C chargers on each side, and plenty of amenities to make it comfortable. Now the third row middle seat passenger will get the seat belt from the ceiling, so that will just get a little bit of a hindrance here in that third row, but that's not the end of the world. But headroom, actually better than the second row. That's crazy.
We've got a good little cutout there, so that's what's going to make some of the difference. Obviously, the moonroof does not extend all the way back here, but the other thing I like about it is where those air vents are. Those are basically the airline style air vents, and as far as getting air to you, I'd rather have it in my face or directly on my body rather than having to kick it from maybe just like the C-pillar or something like that.
Yeah, it's going to be turbojet right into your eyeballs, but you definitely can get some AC back here. Now, you have tri-zone climate control, so you have your second row and then the dual zone up front. Now, if you need to get out, you can either pull this lever down below or press this button here on the C-pillar and fold that forward and it smashes your foot. Pull this and that folds up and you can easily jump out the vehicle.
Now, Nick, you and I like to test vehicles in their natural habitat as often as we can. And while we don't have the prettiest roads to drive at the moment, we've got open road cruising, and that's exactly what this is built for. The only thing we're missing is passengers for the other 5 seats available, but I'm not missing that too much at this moment.
No, not too much right now, but this vehicle offers a lot of amenities that we've talked about already that make the driving experience incredibly comfortable. Now, in our configuration, we have the 3-liter diesel that when we hopped in, when we first drove this vehicle, we didn't realize, they don't tell us what configuration we have on these vehicles. We hopped in and we thought for sure we had the 6.2 that comes standard in the high country. Yeah. Until we looked down to the tachometer, we didn't realize that we were in the diesel. It was that smooth.
Too smooth, yeah.
This powertrain is, and I'm not over exaggerating. I'm not fanboying over a Duramax because Duramaxes are king, but I'm not fanboying, but this 3-liter is really smooth, and that 10-speed really takes advantage of that nearly 500 pounds of torque.
Yeah, and this vehicle is heavy, right? There's no two ways about it. We're looking plus minus 6,000 pounds any way you slice it. But the fact is that it goes smooth. There's a lot of torque, obviously, in this motor. The other motors, starting with the 5.3 V8, is not a bad thing. We haven't tested that here today, but we obviously have driven that engine before in similar configurations.
That's tried and true. I mean, that thing is put in its tenure, and it's it's ready for action. But here in the high country, you don't get that option.
No, you have to start with the measly 6.2, right? I mean, either way, you're going to get a lot of performance out of it. The transmission is great for these types of scenarios, but there's other things going to play here. We have 24-inch wheels, and I'm someone who doesn't love a big wheel because it means you get very little tire. But to counter some of the rougher ride you tend to get with that configuration, we've got a really good air suspension that's kept this thing really nice and balanced.
Yeah, it is a very well-balanced vehicle. Now, again, like Travis said, if you see the camera views on the outside, we are dealing with, it is currently 5 o'clock here in Texas. It's peak traffic right now. So we're definitely gonna test out the brakes, we're gonna test out the mirrors, the blind spot monitor, pretty much every safety feature the traffic is gonna utilize quite well. But when we do actually get to cruise, like right now we're doing about 60, and it's so smooth. I mean, it's incredibly smooth. That air suspension with that Magna ride is fantastic on these rough roads. These roads have a lot of potholes in them. These are not well-kept roads. Now, your first driving experience, what was your first thought? What was your first thought when you hopped in?
Honestly, for as big of a car as it is, it doesn't feel like it. And I tend to prefer my cars on the smaller side. There's nothing small about this, but it all felt really well balanced. The only thing that we've run into a little bit is that these brakes are enough to stop you, but I would be leaning or more interested in the RST with the performance package that gets you some grabbier brakes, because this is going to take a while to get you all the way down to 0.
Yeah, when we're in this traffic, I've had one situation already that I needed to apply the brakes in a hard fashion, and they definitely bring this massive vehicle to a stop. I didn't expect as much brake pressure or brake pedal pressure that I needed to input. I didn't expect to have to put that much into it to get the vehicle to stop. But like you were mentioning, we're talking about a 6,000 pound vehicle with a lot of rotating mass. I mean, those wheels have to be so heavy at 24 inches. I mean, thin little tires, big old wheels, very heavy vehicle. But like you mentioned, my first thought when I started driving this is, one, how large it is, and two, how well it drives for how large it is.
The other thing I noticed behind the wheel, not only did it not feel as big as it is, you know, under the seat, right? You can, that seat feel, but also the visibility on this, because one of the things Chevy's done is lowered this dashboard, and it makes it feel like I can see so much more. Obviously, when we get to the edge of the dashboard, we're running out of or the hood, excuse me, we run out of visibility, but we can see so much more of the hood. It just opens the space up. So having that lower line of sight, but also when you do look down, you're seeing enormous screens, which don't feel too big in this space because this is a large space.
What's so funny is that you say that this 17-inch screen, I mean, on paper, that is a massive screen. It fits really well inside this vehicle. What's crazy is that this driver information display, this LCD screen, is pretty big in its own suit, but this infotainment screen dwarfs this screen, and it almost like makes it hard to see because you're expecting to look over and see pretty much a plasma screen under your steering wheel, but you got a measly little 10, 11-inch screen, but it does the job. I mean, you can actually cast your maps, whether if you're using the built-in Google Maps on Suburban, you can cast that or project it onto your LCD screen for the driver information, but it cannot do Google Maps from your phone. So it doesn't do smartphone projection, but it does
onto that driver display.
Correct. Yeah, it does the built-in Google Maps. Now, let's talk about some of the driver technology. So, big old hump we have here in the high country. We did lower the dashboard, but we have a big old hump right here.
Yep, that's your heads-up display. The other thing is that so much comes standard, and like most vehicles these days, safety features are built into this from the LS and up. Now, in this trim, what we don't have standard is the Super Cruise, because we don't get Super Cruise standard on any of them. But I suspect, especially in those higher trims, we will get quite a few folks who are buying into that Super Cruise. One thing I'm really glad you don't have to buy into is those screens, because at the LS, you can get these big screens. And we talked about configurations earlier. You can get a 9-seat Suburban, and you can still get this standard screen. That's not gonna feel too fleet to me. Obviously, we're gonna be missing some bells and whistles, this open wood, this nice brown leather interior. But the fact remains that no matter what Suburban you get a lot of screen real estate, and that's a very good start.
Yeah, and it's nice that they give you the option for different amenities, different technologies. They give you kind of a blank canvas in a way. They give you a nice starting point, but they give you a lot of options to choose from, because some people like some things, some people don't like others. And so it's kind of up to you, the buyer, to customize and choose exactly what you want to equip on your vehicle. Now, the things that come standard are the things that everyone's gonna really want. Safety, technology standard, and just a nice driving vehicle whether it's the standard spring suspension, standard coilover suspension, you go to air suspension, or just have Magna suspension, you're gonna find a comfortable ride.
The variety of the trims means that you can go from a fairly fleet option to a pretty high-end vehicle. I mean, I don't think anyone would be too surprised if this had a GMC or a Cadillac badge on it if we change one or two aesthetic, visual pieces. But the biggest thing for me is that we also have the Z71, which does get you a 2-speed transfer case. It does give you a different set of tires, a little bit more ground clearance. We're not talking about a whole lot, but it does have a nicely paired wheel to it. And you also get different bumpers front and rear, at least the fascias themselves,
with the
to get you a little bit, more approach, more departure. And all of it really means that you can get a really, really big vehicle that's still trying really hard to be better off-road.
In terms of competitors for a full-size, long wheelbase 3-row SUV, we have a couple of different options within the GM family, such as this Suburban. We also have the Yukon. We also have an Escalade, and then domestically, we still have quite a few options. Like the
over in Stellantis, you're going to get some offerings from Jeep, the Grand Cherokee L, the Grand Wagoneer L. You're going to get offerings from Ford. You have the big Expedition. There are a lot of different ways to do it because it turns out Americans like to buy big vehicles. In the game of numbers, this Suburban seems to have just about everything going for it. You've got 6 different trim levels, 3 different powertrains, 3 seating configurations, and just about as many wheel options as you could possibly imagine. Nick, at the end of the day, which one do you want to show up in your garage?
Well, Travis, if I had to choose one trim and one configuration, it's going to be the Z71 with a 3-liter Duramax and that air suspension. Gives you off-road capability, luxury, technology, and that cush ride on road. What about you, Travis?
I mean, this feels like ordering pizza at Mod or a Starbucks drink where you can do anything you want with it. And I'm tempted by that RST with the not so subtle police pursuit cruiser option. So where you can get all the different upgrades, because at the end of the day, this is such a extreme vehicle in so many ways. Why not push it to extreme the other one? So you'll go off-road, I'll stay on-road. But at the end of the day, we have a Suburban for, well, hopefully Chevy wants everyone.
Yep, everyone should have what they want, whether or not the price tag is right for you. But let us know down in the comments, which trim would you choose for the 2025 Suburban? I mean, there's a lot to choose from, like Travis said. Let us know in the comments what you guys think of the design exterior, technology inside, and how would you configure your trim, and what trim would that be? Let us know down in the comments. It's gonna do it for our time with the 2025 Suburban. Let us know what you think of it down in the comments, and thank you so much for tuning in. We're gonna wipe the sweat off our brow and hit the road and get out of here. Travis, thank you.
See you down the road.
See you down the road.